Human, do you find me ugly? You haven't claimed me since I was gifted to you. Human, do you find me ugly? She asked, her voice low and steady. Noise crashed around us in the warlord's hall. Music like grinding steel, heat from the engine core thudding through the deck. Sael knelt on a carpet of woven scalps, shoulders squared as if the posture hurt less when she owned it. The ceremonial bracer at her wrist gleamed like a trap. Rise, I said, calm. Her ears angled toward me, not quite disbelief. She stood in one smooth coil, breath steady, eyes watching my empty hands. The warlord sprawled above with a smile made for crowds. You are honored, Rhett, he said, his voice rolling through speakers. Take your prize and seal your pledge. I accept no property, I said, quiet enough that nearby guards had to lean closer. Sael's gaze flicked to my fingers. I lifted the chain only to ease the strain on her raw skin and passed it to a guard without looking away from her. The ritual blade weighted on velvet. I set it back down. Water. Miraden appeared with a pitcher and 2 cups. I offered one to Sael. She tasted, then nodded once. Follow me, I said. We left under whispers sharp as knives. The corridor beyond ran cooler. The suite door side open to mirrored panels, a nest of pillows, a hookshelf of polished implements designed for spectacle. I killed the music. Silence fell with weight. You haven't answered me, she said, watching as I stripped the bed's draperies and snapped linen straight. What did I miss, I said. Do you find me ugly, she said, ear flick betraying strain. You have not claimed me. Her body told me more, the tail held still through will alone, the chafed right shoulder, the way she never fully turned her back. She didn't want flattery. She wanted truth. I find you hurt, I said, lifting a basin. Her lips parted, caught between offense and relief. I soaked a cloth, wrung it tight, held it in offering. She stepped closer, heat radiating through the leather bands that had cut her forearms. I cleaned angry marks while she watched my hands with the focus reserved for blades. Up close, the bracer's seam showed vent ports for a pellet charge. A thermal sensor slept beneath. Relief, she said, surprised by it. I bound the worst chafing with linen, then showed her my palm. This means stop, I said. She set her hand to mine, curious and challenging. This means continue, I said, curling my fingers slightly. Her fingers pressed back, testing. A tiny nod conceded the lexicon. You refuse the right, she said, tail betraying a small twitch. They will punish you. They will, I said. You could take me and win favor, she said, throat tightening on the line. You choose not to. I choose you, I said. Something in her stance eased from resistance to readiness. I slid a wall strip aside with a butter knife and found bundled wiring. Tools, I said. She opened a service drawer with 2 precise taps of a claw. Med foam, a tiny torch, floss, needles. I laid them out like dinner. Show me your bracer, I said. She held out her arm. The inside face showed 2 pinhead dots and a notch where the blade would press. A claiming mark would accept her pulse and tag mine to a geofence. Refusal would trigger the pellet into her artery. Choose chains or death, she said, almost amused by the cruelty's elegance. We invent a third option, I said, warming the med foam against a vent. We worked in quiet that felt like trust forming. I slid a sliver of warmed foam under the seam to spoof temperature. She made space without complaint. Our breathing synced, slow, deep, so pulses became metronomes for hands and tools. Oil and brass lingered in the air. You do this often, she said. I do what needs doing, I said. People say that before they turn cruel, she said. Watch me, I said. Behind another panel lay the suite's control box and a laundry bot recharge piggyback. Mira had left it live. I clipped the torch filament as an improvised connector and bled a signal into palace subsystems. A console light gave a shy blink. On the bracer, a green dot flickered. Hold still, I said. Continue, she said, her palm touching mine, the word warmer now. I sent a false claiming ping, enough to register a mark without the geofence handshake. The bracer hummed, a sound built for crowds but intimate here. Sael's ears flicked. How long, she said. 3 hours, I said, watching scroll data. Less if someone sharp is watching. Someone is always watching, she said, dry. Then we move, I said. I pulled the vent panel. Dust coughed over our wrists. She slid in first, ears useful for catching guard steps, and crawled like water, efficient and silent. I followed, marking turns with floss, counting fan rhythms. The engine's heart thudded through the metal. Above, the warlord's laugh sounded like a bruise. We dropped into a service closet where a laundry bot slept against its dock. I knelt, opened its belly, and pulled the maintenance plug. Sael crouched beside me, shoulder touching mine for balance, heat anchoring us. "You smell like metal," she said, almost teasing. "You smell like a fight about to start," I said. Her teeth flashed, the first humor I'd seen. The handheld console mapped palace veins in dull lines. Bracer nodes pulsed red. I traced a route to a hub under the throne hanger where cables braided like roots. "This is the core," I said. "Then we cut it," she said. "We cut and broadcast," I said. Her fingers brushed mine, deliberate contact. I looked up. Her eyes held steady light. "You still haven't answered me," she said, rasp under the words. "You are not ugly," I said, level. "You're the most dangerous and the most careful person here. That's beautiful." Her pupils flared, then narrowed. Her tail flicked once, pleasure banked down. "I will remember beautiful," she said. I reconnected the console. New numerals glowed on the bracer's inside face, tiny, precise, counting down. For a second I mistook them for latency. Then they ticked lower. "Sael," I said, taking her wrist gently, "hold still." She offered it without hesitation. The numbers stepped down in quiet defiance of our calm. "This isn't just an execution failsafe," I said, dry-mouthed. "It's a deadline." "How long?" she said, voice composed, eyes on mine. "Until dawn," I said, feeling the engine hum in my bones. "If you aren't marked by then, it fires. If I mark you, the tether leashes me to the warlord." She watched me take it in, the way people watch the ground after a cliff gives way. "We invent faster," she said, placing her palm to mine in a firm press that meant continue. We crawled back into the duct and angled toward the hub. The air channeled heat against our faces. Her breath ticked a warm count at my neck. We paused above a grid and listened. Patrol boots, 2 sets, cadence board. She signed a low center sweep. I nodded. We dropped into shadow when the corridor cleared. 2 gifts huddled in the maintenance ring, collars humming like sick insects. One shrinked from us. The other stared, jaw set. Sael crouched, showing empty hands, the new language ready. "Stop," she said, palm raised, her tone even. The shy one mirrored the gesture as if it had weight. I cut a panel and bled power enough to quiet their collars for a breath. "Continue," Sael said, palm pressed gentle. They echoed it, eyes widening as the beat of choice entered the room like fresh air. I slipped them a simple loop of fiber to wedge under their clasps. "If this goes wrong," I said, meeting their stares, "follow the palms, never the blade." They nodded, courage gathering like heat under skin. We moved again. The summit hall boomed above, a crowd's appetite turning ugly. I finished tracing the path to the network spine. Sael adjusted a strap, movement small and precise. Everything about her pointed forward. "You choose me," she said, voice low. "I choose us," I said. Her ear flick told me that landed. We reached the last hatch before the hangar and paused. The numerals on her bracer stepped down, unbothered by our urgency, measured, merciless. I thumbed the access and felt the lock answer with reluctant heat. "On my mark," I said. "Continue," she said, palm to mine, pressure firm. The hatch slid open into breathless dark, cables coiling like sleeping serpents, the path to a third option waiting on the other side of choice. The hangar spine breathed heat like a living thing. Cables rose from the floor in slick bundles, pulsing with power from the reactor. Sael crouched first, palm on a conduit, listening through her fingertips. "Alive," she said. "Good," I said. "Alive means adjustable." She almost smiled. I clipped a line into the nearest diagnostic port. The interface blinked awake, old, unguarded. A small mercy. 3 guards, she murmured, 2 pretending not to be. "Countdown?" She lifted her wrist. "Not enough," she said. "Then we make some." I split the feed, 1 line for power, 1 for biosignals. The bracer grid glowed like a field of red mines. I could spoof her band for hours if luck stayed, minutes if not. "Light," I said. She angled the torch, warm against my knuckles. My fingers worked fast, rerouting, cross-connecting, building a loop that could reroute every caller through 1 node. Sael watched like a student learning a weapon. You use your hands like blades, she said. I prefer tools. Tools kill too. They can also build. Her breath caught as if that answer hit somewhere unguarded. Then a door hissed. Boots. A guard stepped in, half-drunk. Sael didn't move until it sealed behind him. One step, a whisper of air, her arm around his throat, the other hand catching his blaster. A short choke, a sigh, and he folded soundlessly. You could have warned me, I whispered. You didn't need warning, she said. Her calm unnerved me more than the kill. I used his card to open a side hatch and we slipped through. The new room was smaller, cold, humming with server stacks. I swiped the card again. A low chime. Access granted. The map unfolded. Thousands of collar links stretched across the planet. At their center glowed one hub marked with a warning sigil. That, Sael said. The detonation chain, I said. Her tail coiled tight. He could kill us all with one command. Not just us, I said, every gift on this world. Her jaw clenched. She turned her wrist, showing the deep etchings along the bracer. These marks read as blood right, she said. Only highborn wear them. He sent me to the pits to shame my mother's clan. You're his blood. By biology, not by choice. Before I could answer, the console beeped, AI noticing us. I typed faster. Faster, she said, same word as before, this time like a promise. I cut power to 3 servers and dropped the load into a ghost channel. The map flickered, red shifting to orange. Partial disconnect, I said. They can't trigger remotely. Now what? Now we show them. You want to go public. It's the only way to make it real. An audience means a fight. Then you'll feel at home. That earned the smallest grin. We climbed the maintenance ladder toward the summit chamber. Heat grew with every rung. Above us came the murmur of hundreds of voices and the warlord's amplified drawl. At the vent we crouched. The hall below blazed with banners in gold. Envoys lined the floor, collars gleaming on kneeling gifts. At the center stood the warlord, armor bright, preaching obedience. Sael's ears flattened. I pulled a microprojector from my pouch, inspection lens rewired for broadcast. If I patch this, everyone will see what that band does. They'll kill us. They'll try. She brushed my arm, then do it fast. I dropped the lens through the grate. It landed near a pillar. The palace screens flickered once, then stabilized on Sael's wrist. Her pulse magnified across every wall. The crowd murmured. The warlord turned. What is this? Your gift speaks, I said into the mic. Sael lifted her wrist, the countdown bright against her skin. This band, she said, voice calm and amplified, kills those you claim. Gasps rippled. The warlord shouted for guards. I overrode the feed again. The chain is yours, I said, and I've cut it. Red lights flared as the AI fought back. Guards moved. Go, I hissed. Sael dropped through the vent in a single motion, landing amid the crowd. I followed, rolling behind a support beam. She walked straight toward the dais, every step measured. The mob parted instinctively. She's yours, the warlord shouted. Control her. She's free, I said, hitting the relay. Collars across the hall flashed amber. One guard froze, clutching his neck as his control band locked. Others followed. Panic bled through the crowd, then anger. Sael stopped 10 paces away. No more chains. He drew his blade, a showpiece for ceremony. She didn't move. I readied a signal spike, finger on the trigger. When he swung, she stepped in, slammed her bracer against his. The clash sparked blue-white. The lights died for 3 seconds. Only breathing filled the dark. When they came back, the warlord knelt, weapon smoking, collar half melted. Sael turned, eyes catching mine. We have their attention. The control board in my hand flashed new warnings. AI override, timer reset, faster. Then we'd better keep it, I said. Warning icons flooded my console. The palace AI had taken the bait and was rewriting everything we'd touched. The timer on Sael's bracer leapt from minutes to seconds, then steadied again as if mocking us. Whatever you did, she said, eyes on the readout, it made it angry. Good, I said. Anger wastes processing power. She tilted her head, faintly amused, and turned toward the dais, where the warlord struggled to his feet. The crowd was chaos. Guards half frozen by their own collars, courtiers unsure whom to obey. Somewhere above, the public feed still ran, our voices echoing through every quarter of the city. The warlord's tone cut through the noise. Seize them both! A handful obeyed, lunging through the smoke. Sael met them head-on. Her body moved like a formula she'd memorized, low, tight arcs, elbows sharp enough to slice through armor seals. I ducked under a blade, shoved my signal spike into the floor port, and keyed the transfer. Sparks showered. The broadcast widened to every active terminal on the network. 1,000 faces now saw what the callers really were. The nearest guard went for me. Sael intercepted, twisting his wrist until the weapon clattered away. Her tail flicked blood from its tip before curling back for balance. She looked feral, brilliant, absolutely alive. "Your feed holds," I said. "Keep them busy." She didn't answer, just nodded once and dove back into motion. I rerouted power, trying to upload the dataset of every bracer ID. The AI fought back, spawning false confirmations, dummy loops, noise. My fingers blurred. Then the light snapped white. A dozen drones dropped from ceiling racks. Palace security, sleek and armed. Their sensors locked on Sael's heat signature. I dove toward her, dragging her down as the first volley sizzled overhead. Metal screamed. "Move," I shouted. We rolled behind a shattered pillar. She looked at me, pupils narrow. "That all you have, human?" I pulled the guard's blaster and threw it to her. "Now you're armed." She caught it, checked its weight like she'd been born with it. The next drone descended. Sael shot once, precise. The thing folded, smoking. "Better," she said. Through the open feed, the AI's voice emerged, cold, synthetic, male only by design. Unauthorized broadcast detected, purge commencing. Every caller on the map flashed red again. The detonation hub was awake. Sael saw it the same moment I did. "He'll burn everyone to bury us." "Not if we cut the route," I said. "The hub's under the hangar floor. We get there, we stop the signal." The warlord laughed through the chaos. "You can't stop it. The system is my blood." "That's the problem," I muttered. We sprinted for the rear corridor. Doors hissed open at Miraden's override code. She'd stayed loyal. I caught a glimpse of her through the smoke, rifle slung low, shouting instructions to freed servants. "Go," she yelled. "I'll hold this level." "Good luck," I called. "Luck's for the stupid," she snapped, grinning despite herself. We dropped down a maintenance shaft into the underfloor galleries. The sound of battle above dulled to a pulse. Pipes ran like arteries, sweat and oil thick in the air. "How long?" Sael asked. Her bracer showed. "Not enough," I said again. "Then make more." Her calm was contagious. I set the console to trace the hub's local link. The signal arrow pointed toward a sealed vault door etched with her clan sigil. She stared at it for a heartbeat too long. "That's his private sanctuary," she said. "No one enters without blood rights." "Guess who has those?" I said. Her mouth tightened. "I'll open it." She pressed her bracer to the panel. The door read her pulse, hesitated, then hissed open. Beyond waited a room like a shrine. Relics, trophies, a central terminal humming with restrained power. The hub. Lines of code scrolled in alien script, each pulse synchronized with Sael's heartbeat. The whole system was keyed to her family's DNA. My console connected automatically. "This is your line," I said. "He built the kill chain from his bloodline up. It can't fire without you." "Then why is it armed?" she asked. "Because he cloned your signature," I said, jaw tightening. "He didn't need your consent, just your cells." She stared at the screen. "He took them when he bound me." The warlord's voice filled the room through the intercom, distant but clear. "You've inherited everything, child, including my enemy's deaths. Take pride." She stepped toward the mic panel, pressed the transmit key. "Pride died in your pits." She slammed her claw through the speaker grill and ripped the wiring free. Then she turned to me. "Tell me how to break this." "We can't just shut it down. It'll trigger the failsafe, but we can rewrite ownership." "Make it mine?" "Make it ours," I said. Her eyes searched mine for deceit. Whatever she saw, it convinced her. "Tell me what to do." I guided her to the terminal. "Put your hand here." She did, claws trembling slightly. I placed my hand beside hers, bridging contacts with a strand of copper filament. The screen asked for a key phrase in her language. She hesitated. "It means I choose." Then say it, I said. Her voice dropped to a whisper, half growl, half prayer. The system blinked green. The red indicators across the map dulled one by one. It's working, I said. Then the warlord appeared in the doorway, armor scorched, eyes wild. Daughter, he shouted, you kneel now or everything burns. She didn't kneel. Everything already burned, she said. He raised his sidearm. I lunged, knocking his aim off. The shot seared past my shoulder, stinking of scorched cloth. Sael fired once. The bolt struck his weapon, melting it to slag. He stumbled, glared at her. You'd kill your blood? No, she said, stepping closer. I'll let him watch his kingdom end. She pressed her bracer to the terminal again and whispered the same phrase. The hub roared to life, lights flaring white, cables writhing as energy rerouted. Every caller signal vanished from the map. Freed. The warlord fell to his knees, staring at blank screens. What have you done? Given them choice, she said. The overload built to a low growl. I pulled her back. It's going to blow. She hesitated, eyes locked on her father. He won't survive. Neither will we if you stay. I grabbed her arm, hauling her toward the shaft. The explosion followed us, heat, light, metal screaming apart. We dove into the corridor as the vault collapsed behind us. Silence, then only the sound of our breathing and the tick of settling debris. She turned, face lit by flickering emergency lights. He's gone. And so's the hub, I said, checking the console. The map was empty. No signals, you did it. Her bracer still glowed faintly. A new symbol pulsed where the countdown had been. A simple curve intersected by a line. What is it? I asked. She touched it, voice soft. Freedom word, our old language forgot it. I looked at her, dust-streaked, bleeding, alive. You found it again. For the first time she smiled without restraint. We found it. The floor shuddered, distant detonations rolling through the palace. She met my eyes. It's not finished, she said. He had lieutenants. Then we go finish it, I said, and offered my hand. She clasped it, grip firm, bracer still warm against my skin. Continue, she said. The corridor shuddered beneath our boots as the explosion's echo rolled through the palace. Pipes hissed steam. Sirens blared, half-choked, their signals overlapping into chaos. Sael squeezed my hand once, then released it, scanning the way ahead with ears flicking to each sound. They'll regroup fast, she said. Then we move faster, I said. We ran, ducking under collapsing ceiling beams. Freed servants and half-armored guards stumbled past us, some running for the exits, some standing dumb with disbelief. The chain network was gone. Every caller had failed at once. In the confusion, no one knew who still held power. We reached the atrium leading up to the throne hangar. The doors were sealed, red-lit. Sael's claws traced the edge of the seam, feeling for vibration. Still pressurized, she murmured. Good, I said, crouching by the control pad. Means the inner AI hasn't figured out the hub's dead yet. I pried open the panel and spliced in my own line. Sparks spat as I bypassed the lock, rerouting its command to manual override. The doors shuddered once, then split open. Hot air rushed out. The hangar beyond was chaos, hundreds of freed gifts milled beneath the high vaults, collars sparking at their throats. The warlord's lieutenants barked orders, blades flashing, trying to reassert control. Sael stepped into view. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The nearest soldiers hesitated, staring at her bracer, its light no longer red but pulsing gold. Recognition spread like fire. She broke it, someone whispered. She killed the master. The whisper turned into a roar. The lieutenants drew weapons, desperate. Sael raised her hand, palm up in the simple gesture we'd created. Stop, she said. Half the crowd mirrored her without realizing it, palms lifted, as if by reflex. The gesture had already become language. They freed you, one lieutenant shouted, pointing at her, but they left the failsafe. Look, her bracer's still active. He wasn't wrong. The band glowed faintly. Panic threatened to surge back into the crowd. I climbed the nearest crate stack, the console's cable trailing behind me. Listen, I shouted, voice amplified through the hangar PA. That bracer's not a leash anymore. It's proof you can choose. You can kill her, or you can follow her. The murmur shifted. Sael's gaze caught mine. She nodded once. Then show them, she said quietly. I triggered the upload. The palace's central display system, still tied to the public feed, flickered back on. Footage from our escape, the vault, the confrontation, the warlord's last words, flooded every screen. The crowd watched their master confess to genocide in his own voice. One lieutenant panicked and charged. Sael met him in 3 steps, blocked, twisted, and dropped him with a knee strike that cracked armor. Another came from the side. She ducked low, swept his legs, disarmed him mid-fall, and handed his blade to a freed woman behind her. "Choice," she said, meeting the woman's stunned eyes. "Yours." The woman turned the blade on the next guard. The fight broke open like a storm. I slid down the crate, using the console to loop the feed across the city grid. Every public screen now showed Sael standing beneath the warlord's banner, alive and unowned. Through the din, Mira's voice crackled over a nearby speaker. "Rhett, this is Den. You're everywhere. The outer districts are rising. You'd better survive to see it." "Working on that," I said. Sael kicked a blaster toward me. "They're regrouping near the hangar control." I caught it, ducked behind a column, and fired a short burst that shattered a console. Sparks rained. The lieutenant's command link died with it. Their soldiers faltered, suddenly blind to orders. The crowd surged. Screams, shouts, the clash of metal filled the space. Through it all, Sael moved like a center of gravity, calm, fierce, deliberate. She fought only those who forced her hand, and every movement of hers carried the rhythm of the stop-continue signals we'd practiced. She ducked under a swing, caught her attacker's wrist, palm pressed to his chest. "Stop!" He froze, more from confusion than obedience. She disarmed him, turned him loose, and the watching fighters began to imitate the same palm language, halting mid-fight, sparing, freeing. The air thickened with realization. Violence was turning into revolution. "Rhett," Sael called over the chaos. "Can you open the throne doors?" I ran to the central console and forced a manual unlock. The great doors began to lift. Beyond them, the vast open-air plaza shone under the twin suns, crowds spilling in, drawn by the broadcast. Sael climbed the steps to the dais and faced them. "They made you kneel," she said, voice carrying raw and clear. "Now stand." Thousands did. The lieutenants broke ranks, some fleeing, some throwing down weapons. A handful tried to rally the drones again. I jumped from the platform, sliding across the deck to the power junction and yanking a handful of fuses. The drones hung midair, power dying from their eyes. Sael turned back toward me, tail lashing once. "It's working." "Keep them watching," I said. "I'll make sure it lasts." I linked my console to the Palace AI again, this time as an open channel. The core was gutted, the network broken, but the Palace's emergency relay still reached the orbital satellites. If I pushed the message through there, the entire system would see. The AI resisted, ghost echoes of the warlord's voice cutting in and out. "Stop, cease, return to obedience." Sael heard it too. She walked to the main projection stand, rested her bracer against the interface, and met the camera head-on. "Obedience is over," she said. The signal cleared. Every transmission route lit green. The city's skyline flared with light as giant holograms of her face filled the air above the domes. The hangar fell quiet. Her chest rose and fell, breath steady. Then she turned to me. "They see." "They do," I said. From the side door, a final detachment of elite guards poured in. Sorn Vale among them, his armor gleaming, eyes burning with loyalty that refused to die. "You've undone everything," he shouted, blade drawn. "She's a weapon, not a queen." Sael stepped down from the dais. "Then come test your belief." He lunged. The clash echoed through the hangar, pure and sharp. He fought like precision-made flesh, fast, efficient, ruthless. She met him without fury, deflecting with measured patience. Each impact rang like punctuation in a speech everyone understood. He slashed for her throat. She sidestepped, caught his wrist, twisted, and drove her elbow into his ribs. The armor cracked, his blade fell. She pressed her palm flat to his chest. "Stop!" The entire hangar echoed the word. He froze, trembling, eyes wide. The word itself seemed to hold him, not as command, but as possibility. When she stepped back, he didn't move. "You are free too," she said softly. His blade hit the floor with a final metallic sigh. Mira's voice came again over the comm, this time quieter. "District's yours. No more chains anywhere." Sael turned back to me, blood streaked down her arm. eyes shining in the light of burning banners. "Then we've done it." "Almost," I said, glancing at the bracer's faint glow. "It's still connected to something." She looked at the band, then at me. "Then we finish in the hangar core." I nodded. "Together." We crossed the wreckage to the central lift that led down into the throne hangar's subfloor, the last piece of the network still humming with residual power. The crowd parted to let us through, silent now, waiting to see how the story would end. As the lift descended, the air grew cooler, cleaner. Sael's reflection shone dimly in the metal walls, tired, fierce, human in all the ways that mattered. "What will they call you now?" I asked quietly. She met my eye. The lift doors opened onto the subcore chamber, lights flickering over the throne's skeletal supports. The AI's voice returned, distorted. "Final override pending, confirm host pairing." Sael looked at me. "It wants to bond again." "We'll tell it what a bond really means," I said, stepping forward. She smiled faintly. "Continue." The subcore chamber pulsed like a heartbeat. Pillars of light rose from the floor, thin as glass and alive with code. The air hummed, not electric, but aware. I could feel the palace AI rebuilding itself, searching for a master it no longer recognized. Sael walked beside me, gaze fixed on the columns. "It listens," she said quietly. "It's waiting to be told who it belongs to," I said. She looked at her bracer. Its gold pulse mirrored the core's rhythm. "Then we tell it there is no belonging." Her voice echoed off the steel ribs. The system reacted, columns flaring brighter. The console in my hand flickered warnings, host request, pair required. The AI didn't understand freedom, it only understood possession. "If we leave it unanswered," I said, "it'll trigger a purge. It can't exist without a master." She tilted her head, tail twitching once. "Then it will have two." The words hit like a spark. "You mean share the link?" "I mean we make the system reflect us," she said, "not one above the other." It was impossible, but impossibility hadn't stopped us yet. I keyed open the terminal and entered a split-channel sequence. 2 biometric fields, side by side. The machine hesitated, not built for equality. I coaxed it open anyway. "Both hands," I said. She set her palm on one plate. I placed mine on the other. The core flared, heat licking up my arm. Code streaked across the air between us in golden strands, weaving into a single pulse. Her voice stayed calm. "What happens if it rejects us?" "Then we'll improvise," I said, meeting her eyes. She smiled faintly. "You always do." The light expanded, wrapping us in a lattice of shimmering data. The AI's tone deepened, its old masculine voice cracking into something unsteady. "Unknown configuration, define command hierarchy." "No hierarchy," Sael said. "Partnership." "Invalid input?" I stepped forward. "Then learn." The lattice vibrated, threads tightening. The heat built until breathing felt like swallowing sunlight. Sael didn't move. Her tail coiled once around my leg, a small, grounding touch that said continue. I reached across the space between us and covered her hand with mine. The sensors registered dual contact. For the first time, the machine didn't reject it. It paused, listening. Her pupils dilated. "It hears you." "It hears us," I corrected. "Acknowledged," the AI said, its voice no longer human, no longer alien, balanced somewhere in between. New protocol, dual authority established. The columns dimmed, leaving one steady beam connecting our joined hands. The bracer unlocked with a soft click, falling to the floor in 2 pieces. Silence followed. Sael stared down at her bare wrist. A faint circle of light lingered, slowly fading like an afterimage. She flexed her fingers, free for the first time. "It's over," I said. "No," she said, voice low, "it's beginning." Above us, the sound of the crowd filtered through the broken ducts, voices rising, not in panic, but in something else. A chant. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized the rhythm. The same pulse we'd taught them. Stop. Continue. Sael stooped, picked up one half of the broken bracer, and turned it over in her palm. The inside metal was scarred, burnt from the overload. "This once marked ownership," she said. "Now it marks choice." She snapped the piece in 2 again, reshaping it with strong, sure fingers. When she handed it to me, it was a simple band, rough, unpolished, still warm. "Wear it," she said. I hesitated. "You saved my life," she said, cutting me off, and risked yours to teach me I could choose. Now I choose this." She reached for my hand, slow enough for refusal. I didn't move. Her fingers brushed my skin, sliding the band over mine until it rested against my pulse. Her voice softened. "You are not my master, Rhett Callan. You are my equal, my bond." I looked at her, tired, fierce, alive, and saw no trace of the creature I'd first met kneeling on the warlord's floor. "And you're not my gift," I said. "You're my answer." Her smile was small, real. "Then ask." The words caught in my throat before I found them. "Stay with me, not because you must, because you want to." She stepped close until the air between us was heat and breath. "I do." The kiss wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, inevitable, the closing of a circuit that had waited since the first time she said human. Her claws rested against the back of my neck, careful. My hands found her waist, the warmth of skin and the faint tremor under it. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. "What now?" "We rebuild," I said, "from choice upward." The lift behind us chimed softly, Miraden's voice filtering through the calm. "Callan, Sael, the city's gone quiet. They're waiting for you." Sael glanced at me. "They'll want a leader." "They'll have one," I said. Her brow lifted. "You think it's me?" "I know it is. You just taught an empire how to say no." She considered that, then reached up to trace a line down my cheek with one claw. "And you'll stand with me?" "Always." The lift doors opened onto the ruined hangar. Smoke coiled under the suns filtering through the shattered dome. The crowd filled every level, silent as we stepped out. Mira waited near the base of the stairs, grime streaked across her face, rifle slung loose. "Welcome to your republic," she said dryly. Sael glanced around at the faces, human, alien, every mix between, then at me. "They need words." I nodded toward the cracked microphone hanging from a cable. "Yours carry further than mine." She stepped forward, voice carrying, without the device anyway. "No one here belongs to anyone," she said. "Not by blood, by bracer, or by fear. You will not be gifts again. You will be people, free." The crowd erupted, first a murmur, then a roar that filled the hangar. Above us, the holographic banners that once bore the warlord's crest flickered out, replaced by a simple image, two palms meeting in the gesture we'd made our language. Sael turned back to me. "That's what they'll remember." "That's what matters," I said. Mira gave a half smile. "Not bad for one night's work." Sael looked up at the twin suns rising through the smoke, then back to me. "You called me beautiful once." "I meant it," I said. Her hand found mine again, the band of broken metal pressing warm between us. "Then prove it," she said, smiling with a challenge I recognized too well. I leaned close, voice low enough for only her to hear. "Continue." Her answering laugh, quiet, unrestrained, cut through the noise of the new dawn. Above us, the city lights flickered, then steadied, powered not by chains or commands, but by a system that now responded to two linked hearts. And in that light, Desert Court ended,